Hi, everybody. This is Reverend Sylvester here from Dynamic Dimension Ministries. This is July, August the 9th, and I come to you as every Tuesday, where we have been conducting uh, financial literacy, an important subject that we have been exploring here at our congregation in terms of just providing information to men and women, our people, and so forth, and just really helping one another in the way of improving our financial well being. We have touched a number of subjects. One of it we had to deal with life insurance. Another one we had to deal with college savings. And another one we had to deal with investments, which are really are all part of the total package of financial viability, stability, and sustenance. And all these things are very, very important to everyone, regardless of what label you wear. That's why every one of us is looking for a job to do something so that we can actually earn something to improve our well being. It is an important aspect to our faith, and an important aspect to our just day to day living. Financial literacy. I'm a very, very strong believer in that. And it's a life I have lived. And I have seen the blessings of God upon my life and those that God has enabled me to be a blessing to. And so here at Dynamic Dimension Ministries, one of the things that we have as our pillar is economic development, teaching men and women on how to improve their financial well being for today and also for tomorrow. That's why the last time we talked about retirement, how to prepare for your retirement. It's not just enough to retire, but the question is, how well do you retire? How well do you retire? And that is all the idea of planning for it, preparing for it, and doing something right now. So, financial management is an important aspect in our day to day lives and is the most difficult part many of us go through. Also, the source of contentions in our homes, even relationships, and so forth. It is an important part. Today, we are dealing with one of the tedious aspect of financial management because it calls for discipline. And one of the disciplines in financial management is called budgeting what you are going to spend. Many of us don't like budgeting anything. It just comes and just to go and spend anyhow. Budget is a discipline you have to develop, and it is very, very important. And is what we are going to be looking at: budgeting and also debt, uh, the benefits of debt, and then also the tragedy of debt and how to manage it. So, budgeting and debt are really things that you and I have to really pay close attention to be able to navigate and pave a better way for our future viability, sustainability, and well being. And so, today we are glad that we have our friend John Carl Council, who has been conducting these financial literacy these past weeks we've had here at Dynamic Dimension Ministries. And he'll be talking about debt and budgeting. And I just want to welcome every one of you to this segment today. And if you have any questions as you listen to it, please don't just throw, uh, you know, just throw anything that is just really negative, so to say, but come to learn. Ask questions that will help somebody else who may not necessarily have that question and have an understanding of this subject. And so please welcome John Cow. and I hand over to him for him to make a presentation to us today. Once again, John, I just want to welcome you today to this segment, even as we make a presentation for today. You are very much welcome. Thank you so much for for sacrificing your time to come and share with us. Please take over.
Yes, Reverend Sylvester, thank you again, for the opportunity to join the call today, just kind of continuing our financial empowerment series. Thank you all for joining us. And, we're looking forward to just kind of going through a few different building blocks to creating a more complete financial portfolio. And as Reverend Sylvester mentioned, there are a lot of different topics and different areas to financial planning, but the one that we're going to be discussing today is going to be budgeting and debt as well. So, just to get started, um, as Reverend Sylvester mentioned, today we'll kind of be discussing one of the pillars of his ministry, which is economic development. In addition to the other pillars being social, spiritual, and personal development as well. So today, we'll just get right to our presentation. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Reverend Sylvester or myself. We'll also have time for a brief question and answer at the end of our webinar today.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so today, just to do a brief introduction of myself, my name is John Carl Council. I work with Equitable Advisors. We're located right in downtown Pittsburgh, um, right in Market Square. So if you guys are ever in the Pittsburgh area or looking to maybe meet in person or even virtually, we can give you a tour of our office, located right in downtown Pittsburgh. And I've been with Equitable for about 2 years now. Myself and my colleague Orlando have been partnering with Reverend Sylvester and Dynamic Dimension Ministries through our financial empowerment series. So just to start off today, we'll cover a few important topics as far as financial planning and budgeting and debt. So we'll start off talking about budgeting. Number two will be how to manage credit card debt, what goes into your credit score, and then a brief overview of investing 101 as well. So a few questions just to get the wheels rolling. So just, some questions to think about. Number one is, are you currently keeping track of your monthly spending? How do you keep track of your spending habits per month? Number two, do you currently have a credit card or even multiple credit cards, and how are you managing these accounts? Number three is, do you pay off your balance for each of your debts in full each month? So I think budgeting, really is the foundation for everything in our financial lives, and developing a comprehensive and well-rounded budget can do more than just track your spending habits and savings, but it can also help you to accomplish your financial goals. So for me, budgeting really starts with having and creating an emergency fund. So I don't know if anyone on the call has ever had to replace maybe a washer or a dryer in the last year. Um, but whether you have a job currently or even are in search of a job, the first rule of budgeting is to have an emergency fund. So when it comes to something unexpected that may arise, you're able to cover those expenses. So our rule of thumb is to have up to 3 to 6 months of living expenses built up in an emergency fund. Now, once you have your emergency fund taken care of, it's time to create a budget. Now, it may seem very difficult at first, but you can make this very, very simple by looking at the bigger picture. So a good rule of thumb also is the 50-30-20 rule, which is just another way to account for savings, which is needs, wants, and expenses. Now, with these, major spending categories, it allows for a lot of flexibility when it comes to your own, unique financial situation. But after you have that, 3 months of living expenses saved up, it's important to keep that in a separate account, which is different from your checking account. And you don't really want to take anything from this account because it is specifically for emergencies that may arise. Now, you want to look for an account that has very low or no transaction fees, something that allows for easy access. So just keeping the funds very liquid in case of an emergency, you're able to access these funds. You also want to make sure that there's no penalties for withdrawals and that you will be earning interest on the balance as well. So looking for an account with a high interest rate or interest yield or APR. So as I mentioned, the 50-30-20 rule, that accounts for your needs, your wants, and then savings and investments.
So what is the 50 and what is the 30?
Yes. So starting with the 50 category, some of the needs that may be in this category would be housing, food, auto expenses, medical, work-related expenses, and also minimum debt payments. So once you're able to kind of budget that out, it makes sure it allows you to account for any of those needs that may arise in your budget on a month-to-month basis. Moving over to the 30% category, this encompasses all your wants. So things like clothing, entertainment, travel expenses, and even eating out. And then your 20% category includes your savings and investments. So this category here is made up of your emergency fund, retirement contributions, and then also taking care of any extra debt payments.
So what
Also,
is the 50, 30, and 20?
yeah, so those percentages pretty much make up, your full savings portfolio. So making sure that you have 50% set aside for your needs, 30% set aside for your wants, and 20% for your investments. And that totals to be 100%. So once you're able to, break everything down, all your monthly expenses into those three categories, that is how you create, or one way to create a budget for yourself. Taking a closer look at the needs category, as I mentioned before, it encompasses your housing, food, car, medical, work-related expenses, and that totals to be 50%. Um, as far as managing this category, you can figure out your budget based on what your monthly take-home pay is. So not necessarily gross pay, because that doesn't consider the taxes that are being taken out of your paycheck, but looking at the take-home pay on a month-to-month basis will allow you to set aside the correct amount of funds for this needs category. Now, needs is very important. There's you know, a noticeable difference between your needs and your wants. So needs should be on the forefront, of your mind when you're thinking about a budget, because you need to make sure that, these are things that cover your living expenses. So if any of these expenses exceed 50% that you're budgeting, then you should take money from your wants category to cover the needs. Now, we have 5 steps here that will help with creating a budget. And the first one starts with setting aside your goals. So, writing out specifically what financial goals you want to accomplish, whether that is in the short term, the midterm, or the long term. You want to give yourself specific dates for accomplishing these goals and how much money is needed um, to satisfy that financial goal. So let's say you have your emergency fund and you want to set aside $1,000 in your emergency fund. Give yourself a date of, hey, I want to have this amount of money saved by October 1st. and that will give you some measurable goals and steps towards achieving them. Now, you can also say you want to have like $5,000 saved up to pay off your credit card debt. You may want to give yourself a specific date, whether that is 18 months to a year, to accomplishing that goal. Number two would be knowing your income. So on an annual basis, what is your annual income or your net pay?
Just John, before you actually go to the next one, uh, what what is the problem with not really setting up the goals regarding your budget? What are the ramifications of not having goals with your finances? What are the ramifications?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. The importance of setting goals and having a date in mind for accomplishing those goals, it really makes it more attainable or more achievable once you are able to see the goals and visualize them. Um, it gives you almost like a timeline for how long you want it to take, and then once you reach each of those measures, you can see your progress and how much longer you have to reach that goal. So it really just makes it more attainable and more achievable in reaching those financial goals that you set aside for yourself.
I think one other thing I can just add to that is the fact that a goal motivates you also in terms of working towards something that
Mhm.
you want to accomplish. So there is a motivation that comes from setting up a goal rather than just having nothing to look forward to while you are doing what you are doing.
Right.
All right, go ahead.
Absolutely. And then step two of our 5 steps to creating a budget is knowing your income. So knowing on either a monthly basis or an annual basis how much money you have incoming. And then step three would be also to know how much you're spending every month. So looking at your budget and then also looking at monthly expenses. What does that look like on a month to month basis, and then even annually as well. So looking long term, you can look back on what your month to month expenses were.
Uh,
Step
yeah, is there something regarding net pay and gross pay? Yeah. That may seem to be quite so simple, uh, but that is is a is a big problem to many of us dealing with finances and budgeting because we have a concept of the fact that I get paid this much. Every time it's like I get paid, this is what I make. Uh, but sometimes we confuse the net and the gross. Can you
Mhm.
just elaborate on the part of net and gross in the light of budgeting, please?
Right. So with gross pay, that's how much money you have coming in before taxes are taken out, whereas net pay is the actual amount of money that you have on an after-tax basis. So when considering, your budget, you want to think about, your income with taxes taken out as well. So there are a number of different, investment vehicles out there as well that allow you to save more efficiently on a tax advantaged basis. So it's important to consider that with investing and also with creating a budget as well. But that is a very, very great, point to bring up and something that we all want to consider when we are creating a budget.
So really, I create a budget on the net pay, not on the gross pay, right?
Right.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So um, step four of our process is creating a realistic budget. So looking at your monthly income, subtracting your living expenses, and then also your monthly financial goals. And that is how much money that you have in your budget for maybe discretionary income or um, separate savings goals as well. Um, so that's some things that go to creating a budget. If you're in the negatives, then that means you have to take another look at your goals, expenses, and income. But if you're in the positive, then that means that you've created a budget that works well with your lifestyle. Step 5 would be revisiting your goals and expenses, making sure you prioritize your needs, wants, um, and expenses as well. You may need to make changes to the budget as well, based on life changes or big events that come up in your life. And then also finding a way to increase your income is very important as well. So that will allow you to adjust your budget as needed and as time goes on as well. So the next topic that we're going to is managing credit card debt. And you know everyone, we all have our own personal experiences with credit cards. We may go through some struggles with credit card debt at one time or another, but it is a very, very common challenge. But what we want to do today is to give you some tips for managing debt and credit card debt. So with using credit cards, it's important to avoid bad habits. So some of those habits may include using credit cards to make ends meet, owning more than 5 credit cards at a time. Typically, we like to recommend to clients to own 1 or 2 credit cards at a time. And it's also important not to close out those credit cards, but to let them, remain open. So that way you're building your credit history. It's also important to do your research on credit cards before applying for an account. You may qualify for certain advantages or benefits that come with having a specific credit card or credit card company, but it's important to do your research prior to applying for, just one credit card. We also recommend that you stay below a 25% utilization of your credit limit. And also, we recommend paying off your balance in full um, each month. As I mentioned above, different credit card companies have, they may have rewards programs, and it's important that when you are, using these rewards, don't use that to exceed, your budget or what you have set aside um, in your savings. So, don't use a credit card just to, buy whatever you want, but to have almost like a strategic way for using your credit card. We also recommend, not making large purchases unless you can pay off the balance in full. Now, some good habits to develop with a credit card are paying your bill on time, reviewing statements regularly to keep, your purchases in check, and also paying off your balance in full every month. And that helps you to avoid paying high interest rates, which are applicable with any credit card you get. You're going to have to pay interest on that. But if you're able to pay the balance off, then you can avoid some of those extra charges. Additionally, we also recommend having your credit limit reduced if you are, more prone to spending more. Knowing that you have the ability to purchase or make a purchase with a credit card, um, and then also, taking advantage of those rewards programs. So it can be a benefit to use the rewards that come with your company's, credit card. But it's important, like I said, just to be strategic with each of those accounts. Additionally, credit cards can be used as a secure way to make purchases, um, but it's also important not to use your credit card account details where it's not secure. So avoiding, credit card fraud. So there are two strategies that we like to recommend for paying down debt. Number one would be the snowball method, and the second way is the avalanche method. Now, with the snowball method, um, it's called the snowball method because it starts off small and then it may get bigger over time in terms of the debt that you have out. But to use this payoff method, you would start by listing off all the debts that you have, and then starting in order of smallest debt to largest debt, you begin by paying off the small debts until you get um, until you start to free up some of that debt that you have, and that allows you to pay off the larger debt. Once you accomplish each of those goals. So really, with this method, it gives you a nice focus. Starting with a small debt first, and then moving on to the larger, um, goals as well. And really, it allows you to almost um, feel a level of satisfaction by paying off the smaller debts first and then getting to the larger ones in a snowball method. Now, the second method is the avalanche method, and this one starts with paying off the debt with the highest interest rate. And that allows you to avoid almost like paying more than you have to pay because you're getting rid of the debt with a higher interest rate first. And with both of these strategies, it's important just to focus on one debt at a time. Like I said, just kind of looking at a timeline for how long you want to achieve each of these goals and the amount you'd like to pay off. But by focusing on one debt at a time, it allows you to really accomplish or be motivated towards attaining any of those financial goals. So now we will take a look at what goes into your credit score. So we've given you a lot of different and important tips on managing credit cards, but another important financial building block is maintaining a good credit score. Your credit score, it may affect your life in a lot of different ways than you even realize, but it's important to know what goes into, um, you know, how your credit score is calculated. Now, having a low credit score can keep you from qualifying for things like a mortgage, or even like applying for a student loan or a loan or any auto payments or things like that. And with a low score, it means that you have to pay more in interest for your credit cards. Now, there are um, three numbers that go into, or sorry, three companies that you can utilize for researching your credit score. The first one is TransUnion, another one may be Experian, and then Equifax. Now, you may be asking, what are some of the factors that go into, your credit score? And one of them would be your payment history. Second one is any outstanding debt, the type of accounts that you have open, the length of credit history, and then how many times you've applied for credit as well.
So, John, a question on here. I know it's not everyone who uses credit cards, so they have checking accounts, things like that. They always pay by cash, some of them. And they're very good at paying. Their payment history is very good using cash. So, how does the credit reporting industry take into consideration of these people who pay by cash? For instance, their utilities, they go there and they just pay cash. Now, how do I build my payment history to show uh, so that I can qualify for these credit cards when I've only been paying using cash?
Yes, that is a really great question as well. When applying for a credit card, they want to the almost like the reporting agencies, they want to know that you have a good history, or that you will be able to pay back any funds that they would loan to you through credit. So even going back to your savings account, and if you make all your purchases in cash, if you have a record of payments or record of income, that is how those agencies look at your creditability, or your credit history. So those are some things that they may look at when reviewing your application for credit.
So you have to provide hard copies of your payments to them for them to consider that.
Correct.
Because you don't have any what you may call electronic uh, report of your
Mhm.
payment history, because you always just pay using cash.
Right. And I would recommend, even if you do pay for everything in cash, I would recommend opening a credit card as well and just leaving that account open, because that is how you build, a good credit history.
Okay.
As I mentioned, one of the things that goes into your credit score, the length of credit card history.
Okay.
So by starting one of those accounts, um, you're able to really start to build out that history. So, like I said, that's one of the factors that goes into your credit score.
Okay.
Now, looking at the ranges of credit scores, if you see on the screen here, we have 5 different scores. The first one is very poor, second, poor, fair, good, and excellent. It's important to try to have or try to maintain, um, you know, a good credit score. And it's, very, very important to do that. And that starts by looking at what goes into your score and making sure that you are, um, keeping up with your credit history and your credit score. So yes, those can range from 300, which is very poor, to excellent, which is the 780 to 850 scores. Now switching over towards this is the final financial building block that we want to look at today. Um, so many parents, they spend all of their time trying to work, pay bills, and then take care of their families, and they may feel like there are a lot of other priorities that they need to take care of, and they may not have time to learn about investing. And if this sounds like we want to help to educate you on some of your options that you still have today, even in your financial future. So you may have, done some work through an employer. You may have a retirement plan through your employer. You may have a 401k or a 403b, um, or even work with an investment firm or brokerage firm to do investments. And whether you have experience or not, it's a good idea to learn about, your options and what you have available to you now. So the first question I want to ask is, or you may be asking is, how do you know when you're ready to invest? And I believe that once you've done all the hard work with managing your budget and debt wisely, the opportunity to start investing may come, a lot sooner than you think. So number one, how do you know when to invest? If you have a steady income. Number two is if you have money left over after reviewing your budget and meeting those financial obligations. Number three, and I would say this is one of the most important, is having an emergency fund, and having up to 3 to 6 months set aside in that emergency fund as well. The fourth way would be by Just knowing what you need to do to achieve the best credit score possible. And then the fifth and final way would be identifying, short to mid to long term financial goals that you would like to accomplish. Now, understanding the basic categories of investing, these categories would be stocks, bonds, and cash. Now, looking at stocks, this may be like a portfolio of stocks, and this allows you to own shares of companies such as Amazon or Google, or even other companies out there that you may utilize on a daily basis. And stocks, they have the greatest risk compared to other investments, but they also have the greatest potential for growth. Now, this is because there's volatility, in the market with short-term investments. However, investors that are willing to buy and hold their investments and almost ride out the volatility over time, they've been rewarded very positive returns on their investments.
Before you go forward, if you can go back, so it's allowing you to own shares in a company such as Amazon or Google in terms of investment. And the question you had earlier asked was, when am I ready to invest? Um, of course, when you have a steady income is the best time to do the investment. But I can add on to that that even when you don't have a steady income, you can get started with the investment with very little amount of money that can help you. Let me just throw one of the areas where you can actually do the investment. It is called stash. I don't know how many of you people have known and know about stash. That is allowing people to manage their own investment with as little as $5, uh, per week. You can choose how much you want, but $5 is the minimum you can come with and begin investing on a weekly basis, bi-weekly or monthly. And when you think of it, many of the people, they spend more than $5 a day. Coffee, Burger King, McDonald's, and other things that we buy. And by the end of the day, you find that you have spent really, literally $20 in that day. But why not take the $10 or $5 and begin investing into something that can be making money for you? And I have found the stash to be quite a viable tool to use for your investment. That's just what I wanted to add to that, Joe. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I definitely would agree with that as well. It's important to know or have a good understanding of when you're ready to invest, but you can get started with saving and investing at any point. And starting today is the best time to do it. We always like to tell our clients that, you can invest with, as little as $5, but by starting it's easier to see the rewards of investing opposed to waiting until you have everything figured out. Um, so yeah, there are a lot of advantages to investing early and often, but that starts with um, sitting down with the financial professional, reviewing your budget, and then just getting started with some of the strategies that we talked about. And as you mentioned, stash is one of those investment vehicles that you can get started with at any time. But also at Equitable, we are a comprehensive financial firm, so we can help with investing as well. If anyone has questions about how to get started with investing or even opening up a brokerage account, we can sit down to do a one-on-one review and get started with that, um, as soon as possible as well. Um,
So please pay attention to that. Equitable does help you with making investment preparations and so forth. So that's why we have brought them on this program so that as you hear what they're presenting, feel free to reach out to us and we can connect you with them so that they can help you make some preparations toward whatever you want to achieve financially. John.
Yes. And so we mentioned a little bit about stocks today. Um, there are a few other ways to invest. You have your stocks, you have your mutual funds, index funds. So there are a lot of different, you know, tools that make up your investments. But a stock is a specific category that you want to, a company that you want to own shares in. As you mentioned, you have your Amazon, you have your Google, you have your Ford, but those are individual companies that you are investing in. When it comes to mutual funds, that is what's called like a basket of stocks. So, um, that can involve small cap, mid cap, international funds, and even individual stocks like your Amazon and Google. But it is included into what's called a mutual fund, which is just a basket of individual stocks. Now switching over to bonds. Um, Bonds allow you to loan money to a company or a government, um, and they are less riskier than stocks, but they also offer lower potential for growth as well. Um, and bonds really are almost like an exchange for interest payments over a period of time. They're generally less volatile than stocks, but they offer more conservative and stable returns compared to stocks. And then looking at cash, some of the vehicles that you can um, save for through cash would be savings deposits, CDs or certificates of deposit, and then money market funds. And these actually are the safest investments, but they offer low returns compared to the three major investment categories. Now, the chances of losing money on this are very low, and the federal government may guarantee investments in cash equivalents. So, um, with these major categories, those are some of the ways that you can begin to look at investing. And then for more information, feel free to reach out to myself, Orlando, or even Reverend Sylvester, and we can get you connected with a financial professional for a one-on-one financial review. Now, understanding diversification, it's very important to spread out your money, and that helps you to reduce your risk. You may have heard the phrase of don't put all your eggs in one basket. And this is very important when it comes to investing because it allows you to reduce some of the risk that comes with investing. Now, number one, risk is unavoidable. There's always, risk that comes with the amount of money that you invest. But, as this decreases in value, there's no avoiding, the amount of risk that comes with, an investment. So we can never guarantee, that you won't lose money, but understanding diversification as well as how you can reduce some of that risk. Number two, age matters. So considering your time horizon for how long you want to, hold an investment, or even how many years you have until retirement, those are all factors that play a part in choosing or selecting an investment and how long you're going to have that investment as well. Number three, knowing your time horizon. Number four, greater risk equals greater reward potential. So that's one of the standards that comes with investing. Um, lower risk, lower rewards. Greater risk, higher rewards.
Can you just differentiate between your age and time horizon? You just mentioned number two and three. What are you referring to when you talk about your time horizon as compared to your age matters in understanding?
Yes. So when it comes to age, you may be, you know, a very young person, or even you may not have got started with investing yet, compared to someone who's older, um, and who has already, started setting aside funds for retirement. Um, so when we're talking about age, we're talking about, how much experience you have with planning, how much experience you have. Are you like a parent? Are you um, single? Are you married? These are all factors that go into, selecting a specific investment. Um, so specifically, if you are a parent, and you're considering like saving in a college savings plan, like a 529 plan, um, it's important to consider, how many years you have until the completion of that savings goal, or the almost like the maturation of the investment. So those are just some things to consider when looking at, which investment is right for you.
Okay.
So a few ways that we can help you with investing is, here with Equitable, we provide, one-on-one financial advice that focuses on you and your unique situation. So talking with you about, your specific goals and your time horizon for how you want to accomplish those goals is what we can help you do, through our financial planning solutions. Number two is that, we can educate you on the different types of investments. I like to look at, um, you know, our role as financial advisors is specifically to provide education, to educate you on your options in retirement and options with investment solutions. Um, so really by, providing that education, we can let you know, tax efficient ways to manage your investments, or, um, your investment vehicles. But that starts with sitting down with you and having a conversation with you on your financial goals. Number three would be determining how much risk that you're comfortable with. And we use this tool called a risk tolerance questionnaire. And really what that does, it is that it allows us to, get a good understanding of what your goals are, and how much risk that you're really comfortable with taking. So, you have different portfolios that may be very risky, and some that may be more conservative. But by having a conversation with you on, what you're comfortable with, that will allow us to give you a specific recommendation, based on those, factors. Number four would be, we can help you to match specific financial goals with the right investments. So by looking at, what you would like to plan for, we can give you specific, investments that may make sense, to get started with. And then number five would be that we can give you guidance and advice on some of the strategies and financial, building blocks that we talked about through our series: budgeting, debt, and other key financial, needs. So that there concludes, the end of today's, financial empowerment series, talking about budgeting and debt. And I would like to, pass the floor back over to Reverend Sylvester. If you have any questions, or, just anything else that, may be on your mind as far as, what we discussed today, we'd love to, follow up with you on that.
Thanks very much, John Carr. Council, that is a wonderful presentation and very succinct in terms of presenting the the program, the subject itself, looking at the importance of budgeting, and then also how we can manage our debt, and then lastly how we can invest and where we need to invest. My friends, this is very, very important as we have been really talking here. I know every one of us, even in these current conditions, we are thinking, we are planning, we are discussing, we are doing everything we can, from individual basis to group basis to national basis, on how to improve the economic foundation of our people. It is an important part of our being. You cannot separate that and throw it away and just make it as, don't really pay much attention to it. It affects all of us in many, many ways. It affects our relationships, it affects our own personal outlook of things and just our being. It affects our families. It affects our future in terms of how well we want our lives to be. It affects a whole lot. And one of the things I found I've come really to discover, and why our pillar economic development is very crucial for us, just as much as I am teaching spiritual development. I have seen that the economic development has really affected many people regarding their spiritual development. It is not ungodly to have economic wellness. In fact, the Bible tells us to balance that because it is part and parcel of our Christian faith that we have to carry. And that's why the Bible talks about go and work and earn something. Why does it tell us so? It's because the reason for work is because we are earning something to make our lives better, to support those who are within our immediate and distant areas of our lives. That's why the Bible really, tells us to do the investments, to be lenders, not always borrowers. Why does it tell us? It's because God knows the importance of this segment of our lives: financial literacy, economic development. And that's why all of us we are doing what we are doing because we want to have a better life where we can be a blessing to many. And so, my friends, take this very seriously. That economic development is a very important, integral part of your life journey, and do not minimize it. And you are going to find that uh, in the process of you endeavoring to improve this, you will indeed reap a lot of benefits for your own self and also for those around you. I have found it to be a blessing in my own personal life, and that's why I wanted to bring these friends of mine and say, can you share these things and see how it can be? We are here at Dynamic Dimension Ministries and with a group of financial advisors that can really help you in the way of really building your financial well being. They are here, they have the knowledge, the experience, and they would like to help you. And in this case, we have these friends of mine that are presenting this case, this program to you, who are ready. As you can see, we don't ask you to pay for it. We are not ask you to do anything other than providing you with the free information that can really be helpful to you. They'll guard your hand, they'll guide you, and they'll help you. They're interested in seeing that your financial well-being indeed improves, or you establish something if there isn't anything there. And you are going to definitely turn around and say to them, thank you for helping me make a change in my own life. And so we are so thankful, John and Orlando Houston, though Orlando could not be with us today, for the work you guys have done over this period of time. And definitely, we are going to work on the workshop itself, and so that we bring you over to be able to give people more of the actual practical on how they can do this, guide them. You have presented the information, but I'm sure others are saying, now, how do I do this? How do I do this? And that is the question we want really to come and address in our workshop itself. How do I do it? And this gentleman will be able to guide you and to help you on how to do this. And so, thank you so much again, and thank you for those of you who've been watching this segment of financial literacy. And I trust and pray that you take this and utilize it for your own good. Last but not the least, we are Dynamic Dimension Ministries, Inc., and we are Dynamic Dimension Ministries Church here in California at 409 Union Street. And we are just inviting you, if you do not have a home church that you can go to, uh, you are welcome to come and pay us a visit and enjoy the fellowship here at our church where we are conducting most of these programs. And you're going to find that there is a place for you, and that God can use you, impact the lives of many, just as much as you can be impacted by others who are gifted in other areas that you are not. And so I'm inviting you every Sunday at 10 a.m. We start our service. And if you can't make it physically, watch us at our Dynamic Dimension Ministries website, ddmllc.org. ddmllc.org. You are going to find us live streaming. YouTube and Facebook, you are going to find us. You're going to hear us. And so we are just encouraging you to come and fellowship with us and come and experience what we are experiencing. God is good. It is so good, my friends. I have tasted the goodness of the Lord. That's why I can tell you that you cannot indeed regret giving your life to Christ and letting Him be the Lord and Savior of your life. You will definitely appreciate it that you make the rightful choice to make Him the Lord and Savior of your life. May God bless you and keep you, and may He help you in all your endeavors in Jesus' name. Thank you once again for watching. And thank you, John Carl Council, for your sacrificial time you've given to us to make the presentation in this. We'll be talking. Thank you, Mama.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Reverend Sylvester.
God bless.